Bonjour, Monsieur le Ministre François-Philippe. Au nom de la Chambre du commerce du Canada, un grand merci de vous adjoindre à nous. It is a privilege for us to be welcoming you here today, and it's highly appropriate that you are the closing event to this most excellent day that we've been witnessing and enjoying. And let me just give a shout out to my colleagues at the Canadian Chamber for organizing such a timely economic summit with such an array of really first-class speakers and panelists. I want to say as well, and Perrin gave me permission to draw this out as long as I felt like, but just to salute the Chamber and his exceptional leadership over the entire course of this pandemic. The Chamber has really been the go-to organization for government and business to consult and engage with on behalf of the citizens of this country and throughout this difficult period. And I would say that the Chamber has had a really large hand in helping navigate and help steer, frankly, this economic rebound that we are seeing now in Canada. So thanks to you, Perrin, and your outstanding team. Just a few words about our honored guest. Minister Champagne comes from the famous riding of Saint-Maurice-Champlain, which is known, of course, to produce outstanding leaders. And he, in a relatively short time, has been shown his ability and his moxie and versatility, having been Minister of Foreign Affairs, Infrastructure, International Trade, and now, most appropriately, Innovation, Science, and another darn thing, industry, of course, excuse me. He is someone really who gets business. He understands business, given his own deep experience as a lawyer, as a general counsel for leading corporations with the international scope and reach. He was recognized as a young global leader by the World Economic Forum, and while he maintains he's an older guy who doesn't understand technology, really he brims with youthful vitality. If you've read his mandate letter, you can see that he's got a huge agenda, but he is both capable and ambitious, and I think, in our view, really up to the job. I'll make one comment about the day. Minister, one of the things on your agenda, which you spoke about at the Chamber quite recently, was the importance of the digital economy. We've heard that emphasized over and over by speakers and panelists today. And I note that Nick Nanos, in his comments, said that only 3.1% of Canadians, and the things they're concerned about, believe we are not prepared for a digital economy. There is, I think, not a burning platform here, but in reality, in terms of what still needs to be put in place by the government in terms of a framework so companies can scale, there is a bit of a burning platform, but we think you're the person to infuse this mandate with energy, and I think really a sense of urgency in this coming period. Monsieur le Ministre, un grand merci encore. François-Philippe, la parole est à vous. Merci.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. Bonjour tout le monde. Real pleasure to be virtually with you today from beautiful Vancouver. And first of all, Catherine, thank you for the kind introduction. I feel I'm the champagne before the break, if I'm the last speaker of the day. So hopefully you're all going to be staying tuned to the event because it's a very important event. And Paul, merci pour vos bons mots. Merci pour l'introduction. C'est un plaisir de faire affaire avec des gens comme vous. I agree with you. I had many jobs in Ottawa. I can always remember myself sometimes. So yes, I did a number of them, but I think in industry, it kinds of bring everything together, whether it was when I was at international trade, whether I was starting with Bill Monod Finance as his Palmy secretary, then moving on to infrastructure, understanding what we need to be competitive. Foreign affairs, because a lot of the things that we'll talk about has some geopolitical impact, and obviously what I did before. So thanks for your kind words. Real pleasure to be. And let me also say thank you, and I'll echo what you said, Paul, to our good friend and a true leader and someone who has served our nation for many, many years. And obviously, I'll be talking about you, Perrin, to say that you're an outstanding leader. We have been in touch, you and I don't know how many times during this pandemic, but it's always a pleasure because with Perrin always come an issue, but with solutions, way forward, suggestions. So I must say you have been a great partner to deal with, Perrin, and I'm blessed, I would say, as the Industry Minister of Canada, to be having a partner like you every step of the way when we were facing challenges. And I hope I can count on you for many, many years to come. And I also want to say to your chair, Carl Tabak, the new chair, Carl and I go a long, long way. And to see him today and having to call him Mr. Chair is quite, it's quite something. So, Carl, félicitations aussi pour être président du conseil. C'est un plaisir d'être avec vous. And the entire team at the Chamber of Commerce, because you really make a difference. And that is very important. And hosting this summit today is a great example of that. I think we can all agree, wherever you are in Canada, that events like these help to shape the future of the Canadian economy. And I'm always glad to hear directly from the business community on where we as a country need to go. It is a very competitive landscape. Big decisions are being made as we speak, and we certainly want to prepare Canada to lead in the 21st century. So if we step back a bit and we look at the current state of the world, I think it's fair to say that we face enormous challenges that require quick, ambitious, and concerted actions by all players, whether it's academia, government, and obviously the business sector and the private sector. And my approach to challenges like these is one that I think you will recognize, which is to take strategic, immediate action, but always with a long-term vision. So action with vision, I think, is what is needed in times like these. It's also fair to say that we are currently facing two existential threats, I think, to Canada, and I would say to humanity. One is COVID-19 and the pandemic and the economic that we have seen. I think you're not on mute, Perrin. So
sorry.
No, but it's good. I mean, I'm sure people would like you to join me, but I just wanted to say that to you, my friend.
We were hearing barking outside, and I didn't want that interrupting your speech.
Okay, no, that's okay. What you may hear sounds, I'm in a big building as well. And I was saying there's two threats to humanity. One is COVID-19 and the economic impact, and the other one is obviously the threat of climate change. And I think that Canadians and the world have seen over the last 2 years that innovation, science, and technology will help us to find the solutions and some breakthrough solutions. We've seen that with vaccines, for example. And indeed, it is my belief, and I think it'd be shared by a number of your members, that in every challenge lies an opportunity. And now it is our time as a country to act on those opportunities. And that is exactly where the focus is going to be. Mais laissez-moi regarder avec vous peut-être un peu les avantages du Canada. Heureusement, je dirais que le Canada se positionne déjà comme un chef de file dans la transformation économique vers l'économie du 21e siècle. Je pense qu'on peut compter sur de nombreux avantages comparatifs. Je le dis souvent, le Canada a une position géographique et commerciale qui est enviable, je dirais même bien avantageuse. Nous partageons une frontière avec un allié de premier plan, mais aussi un partenaire commercial des plus importants. Nous avons aussi un accès direct aux grandes routes commerciales, soit par voie terrestre ou maritime, qui sont des atouts stratégiques importants pour le développement de notre économie. Et c'est pourquoi, ce matin, entre autres, j'ai été en contact avec plusieurs intervenants parce que c'est clair que les blocages illégaux sur nos routes doivent cesser immédiatement. Des milliers de travailleurs et d'entreprises dépendent de chaînes d'approvisionnement fluides à tous les jours. Et je sais que, Perrin, c'est un des enjeux que vous voudrez qu'on traite plus en détail parce que j'ai vu la Chambre de commerce intervenir à juste titre sur cet enjeu-là. Ça va me faire plaisir d'en discuter avec vous. Mais en plus de cet avantage-là stratégique, je dirais, géographique, nous sommes, et vous savez, Perrin, je me plais à le dire, le seul pays du G7 qui a un accord de libre-échange avec tous les autres pays du G7. Et ça, je pense que ça positionne le Canada de façon exceptionnelle, c'est-à-dire que ça nous donne un accès à un marché de plus de 1,5 milliard de consommateurs dans les plus grands marchés d'Asie, d'Europe et bien évidemment d'Amérique. L'excellence scientifique de notre pays dans des domaines de pointe tels que l'intelligence artificielle, l'informatique quantique et la génomique sont aussi reconnus à travers le monde. Je pense que je vous ai fait une confidence déjà lors d'une conférence de la Chambre de commerce du Canada, mais c'est le premier enjeu que mon homologue américaine a soulevé lorsque je l'ai rencontré en lui disant « Vous avez vraiment une longueur d'avance en termes d'intelligence artificielle. » Et pour moi, ça en disait long que non seulement on le constate nous-mêmes, mais que nos voisins américains voient dans le Canada un partenaire de choix en matière d'intelligence artificielle. Mais c'est clair que c'est vraiment le savoir-faire et l'expertise des travailleurs de chez nous qui nous positionnent avantageusement pour attirer des investissements. Je le dis souvent, ce sont les talents qui attirent les investissements et les efforts de la Chambre de commerce pour nous soumettre des pistes de solutions pour la formation de la main-d'œuvre, pour s'attaquer aussi au manque de main-d'œuvre dans certaines régions sont bienvenus parce que c'est grâce au talent, c'est grâce à nos travailleurs qu'on sera capable d'attirer des investissements parce que dans l'économie du 21e siècle, je dirais le talent est primordial. Il y a des bonnes nouvelles aussi au niveau du développement du secteur des technologies propres. Vous savez, le Canada se positionne avantageusement parmi les pays du G20. Et c'est clair, quand on parle de technologies propres, on doit parler de l'industrie des batteries. Je vous le dis, le Canada a tous les atouts pour être un chef de file dans ce secteur. De plus en plus, les grands manufacturiers reconnaissent que le Canada est le seul pays d'Occident qui possède les matériaux nécessaires comme le cobalt, le graphite, le lithium et le nickel pour produire des batteries. Et c'est clair qu'aujourd'hui, la proximité, puis on aura la chance avec Perrin de parler des chaînes d'approvisionnement, mais la proximité des ressources, la proximité des marchés, la proximité des grandes usines d'assemblage font une différence aujourd'hui. Et évidemment, moi, je pense que ça nous donne une opportunité unique d'être un chef de file mondial dans la production des véhicules électriques de demain. But let's focus a bit on our actions. There's no time to rest. Some call me the impatient minister, but I would say the time to act is now. And I think all of you, wherever you are, whatever your field of business, recognize that this is the time to act. And we must be ambitious and we must be bold if we want to succeed in the economy of the 21st century. I think we need to be bold, especially when it comes to the environment and the long-term economic sustainability of our country. And for that, we must work closely with you to achieve these goals. And I think today is a great example of us coming together to chart a path forward. Let me take a few examples of where we have been partnering with some of your members, Perrin, which have been very successful. I can think of Carbon Cure, which is trying to remove or reduce the CO2 in cement in the built environment, because we know that after transportation, the built environment is one of the largest emitter, and everything we can do to reduce the CO2 in concrete and cement is obviously something that I'm pursuing. So Carbon Cure is a Halifax-based company that was crowned the 2020 North American Clean Tech Company of the Year. And thanks to its groundbreaking technology, which enables concrete producers to reduce their carbon footprint. Those are the type of companies that we have supported, and I think you would agree, this is the type of clean tech, innovation-driven, IP-driven companies that we need to scale to make sure that we can not only solve the challenges we face in Canada, but that we can also contribute to the, the green economic transformation that we see. We've seen also, you may have seen, we've supported ELYSIS, which is this new technology to produce green aluminum through a partnership between Alcoa and Rio Tinto. And soon enough, Perrin will be able to produce green aluminum, green steel, and I hope green batteries. I hope you'll invite me again because we're really working to build the whole ecosystem from the mine to the recycling plant. I was with one of the global CEOs yesterday, actually, and I think we're getting closer and closer to land this whole ecosystem. And that will be transformational for a country because this is building an industry which has an enormous future, bringing the jobs of today, but also of tomorrow, but something that is new for Canada. But I could go on, but I think you get the big picture. We want to be a partner in your success. The government is obviously committed to a strategic approach that sees not only a green transformation, but one that sees good and well-paying jobs and economic growth which is front and center. You've seen the investment we've done in biomanufacturing and aerospace at every step of the way. We've made sure that we secure the jobs of today, attract companies and scale companies in Canada which have high potential, but also build on co-op opportunities to make sure that we can provide employments for generations to come. And I think this strategic approach that we're building will place Canada as a global leader in the green industrial transformation. But at the same time, you said it, I think Perrin or Paul said that, we understand that the future is undoubtedly digital. And while I know that we all want to get back to in-person meetings, we've all realized the incredible benefit that Zoom meetings and team chats can have in the workplace. And we all know they're not going to be going away anytime soon. I must say for myself, I've never spent as much time staring at the screen, imagining all these people on the other end over the last 2 years and in my lifetime. But it's also allowing small and medium-sized companies across our nation to be able to connect in ways that were probably more difficult before. And so that's why we're working aggressively, you've seen, to deploy high-speed internet access all over the country. I can tell you as a former infrastructure minister, when you go in rural Canada, they talk about connectivity, and in urban areas, we talk about mobility. But I think connectivity is key for many of our businesses. And you've seen that we have also launched the Canada Digital Adaptation Program to really help the small companies go digital, because we know this is obviously the future. And a key milestone of that will be in the new data and digital economy. It's the digital charter. And the digital charter is top of mind for me, Perrin, and I think it is for many of your members, because this is going to be a key piece of legislation to balance innovation with trust and privacy. And because we all want to make the most of the digital economy, the government has a responsibility to ensure that people have a high level of trust in what's going on. And I think that to succeed in a world where you see the emergence of trading blocks, and I would be happy to expand on that, but I think it's clear you're starting to see more and more trading blocks. We need to develop and solidify a number of supply chains that we see in our country, and we need to develop some with our trusted partners. And I know that's something you want to explore, and I'm happy to expand on that, Perrin, with you. You've seen me talking to my counterpart, the Secretary of Commerce, to map what are we going to need for the next 20, 30 years. We did that with Thierry Breton, the EU Commissioner, and we've seen now with the challenges with supply chain. But I think this is going to be essential to onshore what we can, and if we can, onshore that we have some form of arrangements with trusted partners to make sure we have access to critical elements. But look, I'm eager to get in the discussion. I'll finish with this. I hope that, like me, you're convinced of the strategic importance of the present moment. I hope, like all of us, I hope you want to work together to take advantage of the opportunity, because I think we can achieve great things together. So tell me how I can help you. If you need capital, let's try to work together so that we can support you in this endeavor. If you need better regulation, tell me, and I'll do my best to fix it. And if markets you need, well, I'll be happy to be your Chief Marketing Officer. So en terminant, je dirais, saisissons l'opportunité, soyons ambitieux et certainement faisons du Canada un leader dans l'économie du 21e siècle. Sur ça, Perrin, I'll turn over to you and all the colleagues who want to exchange today. But thank you for having me today. It's a great pleasure.
François-Philippe, thank you so much for the presentation, which was comprehensive. It showed your usual enthusiasm as well, which was great. And you delivered it exceptionally well, notwithstanding being heckled by me and my dog. You must have felt like being back in
I'm using the House
in the House of Commons.
I've got a bit of training with that in the House.
Well, thank you so much for the presentation. Let's take a few minutes to talk about it, where we go from here. You mentioned supply chains in your presentation, and certainly at the present time, the greatest concern related to supply chains is very immediate. You didn't mince words this morning when you tweeted and you said speaking about the Ambassador Bridge between Windsor and Detroit is the most immediate the most important land crossing in North America, and is critical to our supply chains. Thousands of workers and businesses depend on it for their livelihoods. We're all tired of this pandemic, but these illegal blockades must stop. What are you hearing about the impact, both at Coutts and at Windsor, Detroit? And what do you see as next steps?
Well, I would say, Perrin, I'm mad. I'm mad because what we're seeing is hurting our economy, is hurting our workers. And as much as I respect the right of people to peaceful protest, I think when the type of action we've seen, the illegal blockades, are really creating a number of very complex situations in the auto sector, but also all the small and medium-sized businesses in one of the key crossing. And so I've been talking to the unions, I've been talking to mayors, I've been talking to colleagues to make sure that we see an end to that. Because you were right with the Chamber of Commerce. I think you gathered 70 organizations. I saw something around that on both sides of the border. And whilst on the one end, I respect, like I said, the right of people to express their view, but I am surprised to see that people will deliberately be hurting some of the most vital supply chain that will impact their families, will impact their friends, will impact their coworkers, and that must stop. And I must say, I was surprised to see the type of comments I received, because for me, this is common sense. What you were saying, what I've been asking this morning, and the type of comments I receive after posting that tells me that we have work to do to speak to one another, to bring people together, because we're all tired of this COVID. I am, you are, we all have family members which have been impacted either directly or indirectly, friends and families. But the way out of it is not to hurt each other like the way we're seeing now economically. The way forward is to stand together, as Canadians have always done, in the most challenging of time. And I think we need to rise to the moment to say, we've heard you, we hear what you have to say, but at the same time, let's not hurt one of the most strategic crossing that we have in North America. We're building the Gordie Howe, as you know, and I'm really thinking at the time where we're talking to bringing in Canada the whole battery ecosystem, at the time where we want more production on the Canadian side. This type of blockades could have a lot of unintended consequences for families, for workers, for friends. So I would say to the folks who are there, from the bottom of my heart, we heard you, but now it's time to move on and to immediately seize that, because you're creating situations that are extremely complex for people to try to manage on the ground.
Thank you for being so forthright on that, because it's so important for both our economy and for our democracy that the rule of law be respected.
Exactly.
Can we move to the transition that we're making today away from COVID to a more normal economy and to restoring economic growth? The pandemic response and recovery has taken up most of the government's bandwidth over the last 2 years, but you've been very clear lately in your travels, the speeches that you've made, that you're looking beyond the pandemic. We need a long-term growth plan to make sure that we have the sort of growth that we need coming out of this. How will the government pivot from a pandemic response into putting forward a very serious strategic economic growth plan in budget 2022?
Well, I agree with you. And Perrin, what you've seen, and I think colleagues have seen, during the pandemic, we had one key message, is that we would be there for you as employees, for you as workers, for you as businesses, for you as Canadians. We would be there with you for as long as it takes and whatever it takes, because that's the way you get out of one of the biggest challenges in our century, both health and financial challenge that we've been facing. But at the same time, I must say, Perrin, we've started to take immediate action with long-term vision. I can think, for example, on biomanufacturing. You will recall where we started was quite different than where we are today. And actually, I'm in Vancouver today because we're trying to land another critical investment in our country that will bring more resilience, that will help to protect the health and safety, and put Canada at the center of the global supply chain for vaccines. We've done that with a number of investments across the nation. We've seen in Alberta, We've seen in Saskatchewan, we've seen some in Quebec and Ontario, and now I'm in BC today. Same thing when we look at aerospace. You may recall at the time, people were calling on the government to take decisive action because this was one sector which has been particularly challenged during the pandemic. And when I sat down with the leaders of the industry, I said, tell me what's the industry in 20 years from now? And they all said, Minister, it's hybrid propulsion. So that's where we went. We supported them. And now we're working on the battery ecosystem, like I said, from mine to recycling. And I hope, Perrin, you'll invite me again to talk to you about that, because soon enough, I think Canadians will see that as the demand has shifted, Canada is very well positioned to lead in this new industry, which will bring a lot of jobs and investment in our country. We're looking at hydrogen. You've seen with blue hydrogen in Edmonton. And now we need to focus on what I call the 4-tech, whether it's clean tech, biotech, ag tech, and fintech, because this is going into making sure that we would be competing in industries of the future, whilst at the same time having as a cross, I would say as a foundational base, very strong position on quantum AI and cybersecurity. So this is kind of the vision. My point is that whilst we have been doing everything we need to do to protect the health and safety of people, I can assure you that we had one side of our mind which was clearly focused on the future, and we've already seen results in some sectors. I would agree with you, Perrin, there's much more to do. It's very dynamic. We're competing every day with US states to attract investment. We need to do more to train people, to bring the talent, to scale Canadian companies, to build markets for them. But I think we also have competitive strengths for Canada. I often say stability, predictability, the rule of law is in high demand and short supply. Renewable energy, the price of energy in Canada, the fact that we are at proximity to some key markets and resources, it's all playing out well. But I agree with you, Perrin, and I'd be quite happy to work with you. We'll have national strategy in some key sector to make sure that we align all departments in the government. You served for many years. We don't want to work in silo. We know that the economy of the 21st century requires us to be fast, to be smart, and to be creative in how we address that. And we're on it for sure.
Can we turn to another element, cybersecurity? Throughout the pandemic, we've seen a dramatic increase in the number of attacks on government institutions and on private sector institutions as well. This is a major threat to our recovery. How is the government thinking about ensuring Canadians are adequately protected in this rapidly evolving security environment? How can we better protect ourselves?
Well, it is a big issue. And you know what, Perrin? Yesterday I was with the CEO of one big Canadian company, and they showed me their cybersecurity center, and I was really impressed. This is a big thing. And it's a big thing for big companies, but it's also a big thing for small and medium-sized companies, because the threat, what we're seeing in the threat levels, they attack anyone and everyone. You've seen it at government, you've seen it in businesses. I think three things would come to mind. I think talent, innovation, and AI. Talent, we need to have a deeper pool, I would say, of cybersecurity experts that can help our businesses and make sure that we have the people to protect us. Innovation, because I must say yesterday and with my discussion in my former roles, there's a lot of technology involved because people are getting ever so sophisticated, state and non-state actors trying to penetrate. So innovation is key in order to be ahead of the game in this. And I would think AI will be helping us as well, because there's so many things to be considered when you do that. But you're quite right. I mean, in the data economy, I was reading recently, one professor in Canada was saying data gets more value over time. It's one of these resources that increase in value over time. The more you accumulate, the more value it has. And one day, I suspect you'll probably have a line on your balance sheet which will say data. Not that I'm stating policy here, but I'm just looking, like all of you, the value of data will be so key to businesses that we need to make sure we protect it. And it's key also for IP. At the time, I've introduced more stringent rules around security in our research institution to make sure that we would be protecting, allowing for research, but at the same time protecting assets, intangible assets, as we should in a very competitive world. But I see Catherine now, so I suspect that she wants shorter answers.
Minister, yes, we are at the top of the clock. Can we prevail on you for another 5 minutes just to?
Totally. I'd stay with you all afternoon. Trust me.
We have 3 questions that have come in from the audience, and let's see if we can just bang through those, and then we can hand it over to Catherine. George asks, Minister, your announcement Monday on potential amendments to the Competition Act generated some concerns about increased uncertainty and unpredictability, which will affect the business sector. How will your review ensure balance?
Well, the first thing I would say, George, not to be concerned. I think that the competition law not being updated for the last, I think it's something close to 20 years. The type of things that you've seen in the release when we're talking about drip pricing, making sure that we adapt the competition law to deal with I would say the digital economy, making sure that the fine system is adapted also to the new reality, making sure that we avoid price fixing when it comes to wages. I would think the vast majority of Canadians would see that as essential to maintain a competitive environment, to maintain affordability. And I think I would not be concerned. I think that people should welcome that. It is very thoughtful. I think it has been long-standing. And my role as Minister of Industry is to use all the tools that I have in the toolbox to make sure that we have competition, affordability, and that Canada is seen at par, I would say at least, with our other G7 partners when it comes to modernizing the tools that we should have at our disposal to provide fair prices, competitive environment, and I think everyone benefits when there's competition and fair prices, and that's what is the aim of that. I think people should feel reassured. It's 3-step. We've maintained the level to the 2021 at 93 million for those transactions that needs to be notified. We will be looking at introducing change for long-standing upgrades, I would say, to the law that people have been asking for a long time. And the third one, which is the bigger review, will be the subject of consultation, and I'll be happy to hear from George and from you, Perrin, and everyone to see how can we do that. But it's really to make something in the interest of all of us.
Thank you. The second question comes back to the one about cyber. During an earlier panel, we heard that businesses in Canada are ill-prepared for cyber attacks and that our supply chains treat cyber as a when and not an if. What is the government doing to help SMEs with cyber adoption?
Well, we've put, like I said, for me, and I'm sure I've seen the panel, by the way, you gathered, and I'm really impressed by everything you do because you had really a number of experts. I would say it's around talent, like I said, innovation and AI. More specifically, we've put 80 million to support a national cybersecurity innovation network, understanding that we need to do more. I agree with you. It's not if, it's when. And like I said, talking to some experts in the field, people think because they have a smaller business, because they may not be like I'd say, a front street type of operation, that people would recognize the brand. I was looking at some screen yesterday that was showing who was being attacked in real time, because there's softwares that allow you to see that. It was amazing because I was seeing names there, and I say, that must be a very small company, because the type of name that I would recognize indicated it was kind of a family business. So my message to everyone is that we need to up our game as a nation. Like I said, for me, AI, quantum, and cybersecurity will be the bedrock of our future prosperity. It's kind of the baseline. You know, if we're good at that, I think it's going to help us for everything else. But we will continue to invest in innovation. And if you can think with the chamber, anything we can do with our intelligence agencies to help, or even to have seminars so that people do what they call digital hygiene, you know, to make sure that people protect as much as they can, and certainly invest in innovation and AI, because I appreciate if you're small and medium-sized businesses, this may seems all very complicated, but I think we will be capable with the right talent to have the type of AI tools that will be helpful to our small and medium-sized businesses. But it'd be wrong to think, Perrin, as you just said, it's not just like the brand names, the big companies. These people are targeting indiscriminately people wherever you are, whatever the size you have. They're trying to tag you if there's a way for them to extract anything from you.
Thank you, Minister. Final question is from Peter, and goes back to your old portfolio of infrastructure. And the question is, what does the Canadian federal government plan to do to overcome the discrepancy between the relatively short election cycle and the much longer time required for significant linear infrastructure project approvals and execution? Now, I can't believe that you would allow things like elections to interfere in any way with decisions on infrastructure, Minister.
No, I would say I think more in construction seasons. I've tried to install that in Ottawa to say I don't want to think in calendar year. I think in terms of construction season, because when you're in infrastructure, that's what really matters. I was saying if we don't get the permitting by, let's say, December, January, well, there's no way we can start construction in April. Then you lose like 12 months. And if you're looking at the north, you may lose even longer than that, 18 months to have a barge to bring the goods in the north. So listen, I think as a nation, the infrastructure bank should be helpful in that. I agree with you. If you look at the high frequency rail we're talking about in the Quebec to Toronto corridor, if you look at the Samuel de Champlain Bridge, which was it started by the Conservative, and I was infrastructure minister when we opened it. I think we have to have the level of maturity in a G7 country to really look at the long term. That's why I always say immediate action with a long-term vision. We did that with the Champlain Bridge, which is one of the largest crossing. We're doing the Gordie Howe Bridge now, which also was started at different time in government. But I think if we want to succeed, we need to have this kind of long-term thinking. Same thing with the big industry we're trying to build. The battery ecosystem. Perrin, you've been in office for many years. I may contribute with many to land it, but it's going to be for future generation to nurture, to expand, to scale. But what matters is that we as Canadians step up for that, and I hope that there's enough trust in our elected officials to do the right thing for the nation, for growth, for the workers, and certainly that's the vision that I have every day when I take a decision on behalf of Canadians.
Minister, thank you so much. We've had just an outstanding day, and you've really capped it off with your presentation. We see you very much as the champion for business in cabinet. You are utterly indefatigable. The amount of energy that you show in terms of promoting the Canadian business community is something that's truly remarkable, and we're grateful to you for doing that. We're grateful to you for being with us today.
Thank you, sir. You're always so kind. I just say I'm blessed to have people like you around me to make sure we do this together. But thank you again, Perrin, and to everyone today.
Thank you.